on the topic of podcasting, I run a business. My business is podcasting, and my podcast is networking. And I've been thinking about this a lot lately. What is my end goal? What do I want for this podcast? People. The final question of Talk My Tarashuk Podcast, spoiler alert, always goes to the guest. So you get to ask me a question. And the most common question is, what do you want out of this? And it changes every single time. Because I've been thinking about this a lot. I have no idea. I'm kind of going through a little bit of a career transition right now, a little bit of like a mix-up of like where this podcast is and what it does. And I don't know. It kind of sounds like a good answer. Because at the end of the day, what do I really want in life? Well, my career comes second. I want to be a dad. That's it. That is the most important thing to me, and that comes across when I speak and how I interact and how I engage myself. I want to buy a house. I'm chasing the American dream. How I get there is just how I get there. So if this podcast is going to help me get there, that is what I want. If I can make a little bit of extra cash, use it as an emergency fund, that is what I want. If I can use it to make some cash under my sole proprietorship, start a 529 plan, my kid can go to college, that is what I want. So I want this podcast to reach 10 million views, make $100,000, sell it and sell equity and go public. No, fuck all that. That's nonsense. I like talking to people. I like networking with people. You are a very interesting person, and you kind of took me through the ringer psychologically in the beginning. I felt like a complete fucking amateur. So thank you for that. But that's how I learn. Right? I got to Google some of the words you said, but that's fine. That's how I learn and become a better speaker. And it's the way you speak and engage yourself. It's like, okay, this is someone I would want to work with. I'm glad I can now add you to my network. Where is that going to go? I have no idea. And sometimes that's very terrifying.
Good news is, I was thinking recently, like I mentioned at one point, I was just at this week-long, series of, it was a conference, PHX Startup Week. We've been doing it here in Phoenix every year for 9 years. It's interesting, but I'm kind of adjacent to it. I'm not that interested in startups. I'm not that interested in VC funding. I could care less, right? Like you, I'm not trying to, build some unicorn in that way. It's not interesting to me. But I was thinking, why do I do this? Why do I go out and spend a week? My wife and I share a car. We have 2 kids who are homeschooled. So, for me to be away from the house for a week is a big toll on them and on, change. I'm away from my own business. I mean, kind of peripherally because I'm talking to people and stuff. I'm like, why do I do this? The answer is really quite simple. My own life experience and all the places I've been, all the countries I've lived and worked in, all the stuff in the bio at the very beginning has led me to believe one thing is true, which is you're always only one conversation away from things that you did not even realize were going to be fascinating to you, take over your life, take you in a new direction, maybe get you ultimately what you want, or maybe just get you one step closer. One conversation away. Now, the problem is you don't know what that conversation is or who you have to have it with. So you should talk to everybody. I firmly believe that. So when I was teaching at Berkeley, I used to tell my students, listen, everything that I ended up doing that you now think is really cool. I was a reporter for Newsweek during the invasion of Iraq. I went to work for a humanitarian relief organization, helped make the crisis in Darfur one of the biggest news stories of 2004. All this media stuff, all this, whatever, like getting these strange jobs in strange places that led, to a relationship that, was wonderful for the 2 years that it lasted, like stuff that just never, it all started because I was talking with somebody and an opportunity appeared in the conversation and I said yes to something that was probably a bad idea at the time. But when you say yes to things that, weren't on the plan and they take you in directions you didn't expect. I mean, I don't know, maybe it's just my personality is well suited for that. But I've found the detours are always more interesting than the well-paved highway. And you never know what's going to happen when you talk to people and when you're open. So back to what we were talking about curiosity. I'll take curiosity over, dogmatism any day because one is open and leads to things you didn't know were possible, and the other is closed and insists on what you already think is true.